It would have been cool. They have flashes of that, like at the end of 3, at the end of 4 even, but it's never like, here's the bad guy. So, Terminator 7, God's sake. Again, I say this every time. A future war. This is the third option that I've mentioned.
Yes.
Number 3. Future war movie. All right? John Connor, I know, a crazy thought, is the main character of the film, right? It takes place in the James Cameron future that was established in the first 2 films. It's 2028 or 2029, depending on if you want a sequel or not. I'd rather just wrap it all up and be done with it. So I want a one-off Terminator 3 to close off everything. You don't talk about how they stopped Skynet. You just don't explain. We're in the future war now, right? Turns out they were wrong. The unknown future was Skynet, okay? So you're in the future war, purple lasers, right? A blue tint to everything. John Connor's in it. Kyle Reese is in it. You cast someone who looks as much as possible like Michael Biehn to play Kyle Reese. You have some plot in it. I don't, insert plot here. You can future war, post-apocalypse. There's plenty of potential there. You see so many movies like that, right? At the end of the movie, they defeat Skynet. They find the time travel device. They send Kyle Reese back in time. They send the T-800 back in time. That's the end of the movie, okay? And that's the third film that closes off all the stuff from the first 2. And also, if you want, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger as a resistance fighter. At some point, he gets captured, and they use his image to become a Terminator, and he becomes the Model 101. So, throw that in there. So, that's been saying it since Terminator 2. That's what I want for another Terminator movie. If they didn't give it to us this time, they're never going to give it to us, Brandon. So, I don't even know why I'm trying. But that's what I would want.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's one other option that they could do. I mean, like, there's 2 heroes in this franchise that they've never really explored, right? And I think that we could have got, like, a gritty origin story for Todd and Janelle.
You're not my mother, Todd.
Because, I mean, like, they took in John, and they loved him the best that they could. But he was not a good kid. So I think a Todd and Janelle story, a Terminator story, would have been good. Todd and Janelle, a Terminator story.
That's a great idea, Brandon. That's exactly what they need right now. So very good.
No, I agree with you. I don't know what they're gonna do with this. Honestly, like that article I read where they're talking about like continuing on with this, I can't see them doing it, especially with this box office performance. I think this is it. I think this is the death knell for the Terminator franchise.
I will say, in retrospect now, they should have just continued on with Salvation.
No, Genesis.
Well, okay. Well, Genesis also bombed, which is why they erased it for this.
Genesis didn't bomb.
Genesis bombed. Look it up.
No, I'm not going to look it up because I don't believe you. Revisionist history. Yeah, Wikipedia,
well,
where you just go in and edit that number.
Brandon, if you can't trust the internet, who can you trust? But the point is...
The Joker.
Salvation did respectable business, and at worst case was like a mixed bag of reception. Mm-hmm. But the last 2, I know you love Genesis, I'm just saying the last 2 lost money and were critically and commercially panned. So, I mean, if you're looking at, if I give you these 3 movies and say, which one do you follow? You say, oh, well, that one, obviously, Salvation, because there's still something left there. So, anyway.
As long as Christian Bale's not in it.
You either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I guess that is what has happened to the Terminator franchise. It is sad that the first 2 movies are just cinematic masterpieces, some of the greatest films of all time that informed a generation of science fiction and moviegoers. And now we're talking here about this nonsense.
Okay, no, it's not that sad because, again, the first 2 I gave 5-star, and the next 3 I gave 4 stars. I've loved this franchise up until this point. What's sad is that they just can't seem to find a direction for it. That's what's sad.
Well, pick a direction and stick with it. Right?
Yeah, they should have just gone.
The continual you lose all investment when every movie you see is, oh, well, that one doesn't count. That one doesn't count. That one doesn't count. That one doesn't count. Like, you can't do that anymore. Like, you got like the X-Men franchise, right? They have their ups and downs, and they had one brief kind of mini, time travel reset in the middle. But they stayed the course, and that's why they got a movie like Logan at the end to cap it all off.
Which I just saw finally.
And what did you think?
I thought it was really good. I gave 4 stars.
Exactly. And 4 stars, just the same rating of Terminator 3.
I would rather watch Terminator Genesis, right? But
well, you stay with those characters and those actors, and you go all the way through. And Logan came out 17 years after the original X-Men, but because there was that, they didn't blow everything up after X-Men: The Last Stand or even X-Men Origins Wolverine. They had a prequel, but then they had a sequel and a crossover, and you got to stick with it,
Mm-hmm.
And they just hit the panic button every single time after these post T2 sequels. And had you stayed with Nick Stahl and Claire Danes, you could at least say, well, I disagree with the fact that Judgment Day is inevitable and how they chose to do that, but then they just carried on and moved forward, and this is the Terminator now.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we have, we mentioned it, you got 4-5 different John Connors. Why are you supposed to care?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm disappointed because I was looking forward to this, but I've still got 5 movies that I can fall back on that I love, so I'm okay with it.
Are you going to buy this on Blu-ray, Brandon?
I probably will, because I'm that kind of a completionist. Like, I'll probably grab it. I was kind of surprised there was no 3D showing. So did they? I don't know if they had this in 3D or not, but
I'm not sure. I'm not Mr. 3D, so
yeah. I would have gone to see it in 3D.
You think with James Cameron being involved, it would have been 3D?
Yeah.
So. I'll tell you what is 3D, Brandon. Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time. That is the true Terminator 3.
Yeah. Okay. And since you say that, just so you are aware, I won't buy Terminator 2 in 3D. Because, like colorization of black and white movies, don't be 3D in the 2D movies. If it's in 3D and that's how they release it, fine. But don't go back in time. Like, I'm not buying The Wizard of Oz in 3D, okay?
It was the way Frank L. Baum originally
No, it wasn't, okay? And I don't know why they did that. Why would they go back and make Wizard of Oz in 3D? I don't know if you knew that, but they actually did that. That's actually a thing. Did you know that?
Well, they converted Star Wars to 3D.
Menace.
They were going to release all of them, and then Lucas sold to Disney, and they killed it. I went and saw Phantom Menace in 3D, and it was like, okay.
That's your problem. That's stupid of you.
That's the best of the prequel trilogy, Brandon.
Phantom Menace in 3D, or just Phantom Menace?
We'll leave it there. So, okay. All right, Brandon. Well, when you aren't being recast movie after movie, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network with my friends Chris and Tom. We have a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, and we talk about Alfred Hitchcock films. Imagine that. You can find me over on Trek FM with a show called The Line, which is all about Star Trek Picard, which will be coming out January 23rd. Zach, where can people find you when you're not telling everybody that Terminator 2 is the greatest movie ever and it's such a sad franchise after that?
Well, you can find me personally at MooreOnZach. That's MooreOnCach. I'm also the host of my own podcast, Always Hold On to Smallville. We talk about each and every episode of that Young Superman show over there. You can find us on Twitter at AlwaysSmallville1S. And I'm also a host of Standard Orbit, Trek FM's original series podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Trek FM, talking about all the adventures of Captain Kirk and the Enterprise.
Excellent. Well, next week, join us as we jump into the Man with No Name series. And again, we're starting off a little bit odd with Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, because the Fistful of Dollars is a remake of Yojimbo. So that's where we're starting. So we're doing Yojimbo and then Sanjuro and then the Man with No Name trilogy. So until next time, Zach, is that a hand in your mouth?
I know not why you cry, but it's something that I can never do.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.